afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Future TV. I'm Linda Tamima, and these are today's top stories. The 5 Lebanese hostages released by the Nusra Front reunite with their families, but concerns are growing over the fate of the remaining soldiers and policemen held by Syrian militants. Former Prime Minister Fouad Sanyura says the Future movement considers itself closer to Lebanon's Christians than to Islamist extremists, stressing the party's belief in the Lebanese state as the guarantor of peace and stability. And the Iraqi army, backed by volunteer fighters, break through the Islamic State group siege on the town of Amerli. The 5 Lebanese hostages released by the Nusra Front have reunited with their families, but concerns are growing over the fate of the remaining soldiers and policemen being held by Syrian militants. Soldiers Brahim Shaban, Ahmed Ghie and Wa'il Darwish were reunited with their families in Arsal this morning, according to the state-run national news agency. The 3, along with ISF member Saleh al-Baradei and soldier Muhammad al-Qadiri, were turned over to Sheikh Mustafa al-Hujairi by the Nusra Front yesterday evening. The 5 appeared on LBCI television, thanking Hujairi for his efforts to secure their release and expressing gratitude over their safe arrival to Arsal. One of the freed hostages said they received good treatment by their captors, highlighting that they were never assaulted or abused. Justice Minister Ashraf Rifi has called for an investigation to be carried out into the burning of crosses in the northern city of Tripoli. The crosses were allegedly burned on Saturday in retaliation to the burning of an Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant flag in Beirut's Ashrafiyya district. Also yesterday, supporters of the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Al-Nusra Front burned the crosses on the Al-Tabani highway. The investigation will be carried out to safeguard the sanctity of religious, both Muslim and Christian, symbols and practices. He continued that the violation of the cross will have negative and dangerous legal and national repercussions on national unity and coexistence. He urged General Prosecutor Judge Samir Hamoud to task the concerned judicial authorities to uncover the perpetrators in order to lay down the harshest punishment against them. Army Commander General Jean Ahwaji has stressed the Army's readiness to wage any battle with extremists, given media reports that thousands of militants are lying just outside of Lebanon's borders. In remarks to Al Mustaqbal Daily, he declared there are several rumors, but should the militants attack us, then we are ready for them. He also added the situation on the ground is very normal. Asked to comment on the pictures of the beheading of Lebanese soldier Ali al-Sayed, Kahwaji did not confirm whether the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Nusra Front or Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant were behind the incident. Former Prime Minister Fouad Sanyura says the Future movement considers itself closer to Lebanon's Christians than to Islamist extremists, stressing the party's belief in the Lebanese state as the sole guarantor for peace and stability. Sanyura stressed on the support of the Lebanese army, the rule of law and the legitimate authorities, refusing any weapon outside the state's authority. He expressed fear that the Syrian war could expand to Lebanon, stressing that electing a new president was the first and central task to reconstruct the authority in the country and confront the faced threats and challenges. A conference on local responses to community conflicts in northern Lebanon has been held this weekend. The conference was the final event of a 21-month project funded by the European Union and the Dutch Embassy in Beirut and implemented by Partners for Demographic Change International in partnership with local NGO Peace Labs. Non-state actors in 6 different localities in the north have been supported to establish sustainable systems and structures for short and long-term interventions to prevent conflict and address the consolidation of civil peace through local cohesion. The event brought together local community conflict mediators, national representatives from several ministries, international donors, and local and international peace-building agencies. Different models of local conflict mitigation practices were showcased, and several key points were addressed, mainly how to achieve a sustainable model for peace. So many speakers have mentioned that the underlying cause of the problems here are a lack of resources, and so I wanted to ask if some of the EU funds are actually allocated to address these problems.
Well, we have with the local authorities, with the authorities of Lebanon, we agree a program, and there are some funds which are commonly, which is the programmed envelope, and we call it the programmable aid. And this is discussed commonly with the authorities and implemented either with contractors or with consultants and with ONGs who are implementing grants projects. But the European Union has also other means of interventions which are not discussed and coordinated directly with the beneficiary country. These are envelopes being made available directly from Brussels, and they address the kind of problems you have mentioned.
We really had the chance to watch how the trust have grown during the project. It was at the beginning it was so difficult for us to be accepted, like active locally in communities, you know, coming from Europe, and then we really understand that we need time. And we had to demonstrate that we were really interested in helping people raise their voice and working locally.
What are the main challenges you've been facing during this project?
There are so many challenges, of course. Basically, building the trust with the communities. It takes a lot of time to present the project, to explain it, but also to get them on board of it. So getting them to trust the process, to trust the outcomes and the possible outcomes of it was definitely one of the key challenges that we were facing.
How optimistic are you about achieving peace in the north, and in the whole country for that matter?
Well, about achieving peace, if we look at it as a pill that we can, you know, swallow and everything is going to be fine, then I think I'll be very much devastated and forever disappointed. But if we look at peace as something to be built for the next coming 100 or 200 years, I think we can start building something much more sustainable, something much more longer term. So in my case, I'm very much optimistic, not necessarily for the next, you know, coming years, but definitely for the many years to come.
What inspired you to launch or work into this project? And mainly in Akkar and in the north?
Well, I mean, basically the current influx of additional conflicts that our society is witnessing today and will most likely be witnessing in the future has definitely been a key motivator for us to actually work on this type of projects. There was something very important that motivated this type of work. That is the lack of initiatives on the local level to bring people together to talk and to discuss. And since the rift is at times growing wider amongst the different communities, sometimes within the same community, we thought that the best way to promote this type of immunity against conflicts within our communities is to get people talking to each other and building dialogue mechanisms for them to be together and to discuss their problems, to collectively try to tackle problems that so far have been tackled rather on the individual level.
Would you think that so far this project has been successful?
I would say so, but again, it's all about the mindset that governs how we are looking at things. So if we're looking at the current short-term immediate results, we tend to think that they are important for the continuation of such an initiative. But again, it's not a 2 or 3 year project. For us, it's a vision. For Peace Labs, our organization, it's something that we have built our organization around so that we keep working on this for the many years to come, but most importantly to promote cooperation and collaboration amongst those who are working in the same field, because without that we will never be able to maximize the very little resources that are available in the peace building field in Lebanon.
And coming up next, British police charge a 39-year-old man with a religiously motivated assault on UK Member of Parliament, Mr. George Galloway. Stay tuned. Welcome back. 2 groups of UN peacekeepers have evaded capture by Syrian rebels in the Golan Heights, military sources have said, after one group was rescued and another slipped away from their besieged position. Syrian rebels on Saturday had surrounded 2 groups of Filipino soldiers working for a UN observer force, days after capturing a group of 44 Fijian soldiers also working for the UN. Early this morning, a group of 40 Filipinos slipped away from Syrian rebels who had surrounded position 68 near Ruhena. Their escape came hours after another group of 32 Filipinos were rescued from position 69 under heavy fire from unidentified fighters. A UN diplomatic source said that Syrian rebels had attempted to bolster their forces around position 68 in the hours before the UN troops escaped. The Iraqi army, backed by volunteer fighters, have broken through the Islamic State group siege on the town of Amirli, located between the capital Baghdad and northern city of Kirkuk. Iraqi forces and the militia entered the city this morning, where thousands of people have been trapped for over 2 months with dwindling food and water. Sources on the ground say that the Iraqi soldiers were backed by Shia militia. Western warplanes dropped desperately needed aid to an Iraqi shade town under blockade by jihadists for well over 2 months as preparations to break the siege dragged on. The aid drops were accompanied by U.S. airstrikes and were the furthest south that American forces have intervened in Iraq, barring reconnaissance fights since their withdrawal in December of 2011. ISIS and its allies control swaths of both northern and western Iraq and neighboring northwestern Syria, where their rule has witnessed a spate of atrocities that have shocked the world. British police have charged a 39-year-old man with a religiously motivated assault on UK Member of Parliament, Mr. George Galloway, on a West London street. Neil Matterson, 39, was charged with assault by beating, which is religiously aggravated, on a male in his 60s, and also common assault on a male in his 40s. The second charge is believed to relate to a bystander who tried to intervene. Galloway, the leader of the Respect Party and MP for Bradford West, suffered bruising to the face and possibly a broken rib in the attack as he posed for pictures with people near Notting Hill. The outspoken British MP, known for his pro-Palestine views, had described himself as being in pretty bad shape following the attack. Galloway was questioned by the British police earlier this month after declaring the West Yorkshire city of Bradford an Israel-free zone on August the 2nd. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. The 5 Lebanese hostages released by the Nusra Front reunite with their families, but concerns are growing over the fate of the remaining soldiers and policemen held by Syrian militants. Former Prime Minister Fouad Sanyoura says the Future movement considers itself closer to Lebanon's Christians than to Islamist extremists, stressing the party's belief in the Lebanese state as the sole guarantor for peace and stability. And the Iraqi army, backed by volunteer fighters, break through the Islamic State group siege on the town of Amirli. Those are your top stories for today. I'm Linda Tamim, wishing you all a very nice evening.